My husband yelled, "You're too clingy. Please give me space." Just because I asked where he was at 2:30 a.m. with another woman, I simply said, "Okay." I'm Marina, and before I tell you what happened next, can you tell me where you're listening to this story from? Leave your city in the comments. I want to send a warm hello to every place this story is reaching. 1 year earlier, Portland. The apartment was completely dark when I heard the lock turn at 2:47 a.m. I remember the exact minute, because I had stared at the clock on my phone for 3 straight hours, watching each minute crawl by slowly enough to make me furious. Every message I sent Jason, "Where are you? Are you okay? Just let me know you're safe," shifted from sent to read, without a single reply. A kind of silence with teeth. I sat on the sofa in the living room, the room we once picked furniture for together. Well, mostly according to his taste. Those beige throw blankets, those minimalist art prints hung up for aesthetic. Pieces of decor that photographed well but never made the place feel like an actual home. I never told him that. Marriage, I learned, is a collection of things you never say out loud. Jason walked in, trying to be as quiet as possible, which somehow made it worse than just walking normally. The way he set his keys down, deliberate, careful. The way he moved each step, soft enough, as if I were some sleeping animal he didn't want to startle. "Hi," I said from the dark. He jumped, actually jumped, his hand going to his chest. "Jesus, Marina, I thought you were asleep." "I'm sorry," I said. But inside, I wasn't sorry, I was worried. Even with just the faint light from the hallway, I could see his face change color. The way his lips thinned, something I had been seeing more and more over the last few months. The signal that he was about to enter an argument he had already decided he'd win. "I texted you that I'd be home late," Jason said, walking straight to the bedroom without even looking at me. "You texted at 11 saying you were grabbing drinks with the team after work. It's almost 3 a.m. now, Jason." He stopped. I saw his shoulders rise, then fall. A calculated sigh meant to show that I was an unnecessary burden. "I don't have to report my every move to you, Marina." His voice rising. "I'm not asking for reports. I'm asking where my husband is, and with whom, in the middle of the night." Another sigh, heavier. I stood up and immediately regretted it, because taking just a few steps toward him instantly made me the one chasing in the psychological game he always controlled. "You were with Laura again, weren't you?" Laura, his friend from the creative department, the one he mentioned casually about half a year ago, then mentioned more, then suddenly stopped mentioning entirely, even though her name kept popping up on his phone every evening. Laura with the stunning body, the social media full of bold dresses and poses you couldn't look away from, and captions like, "I'm beautiful and I know it." Oh my God! Jason turned around, and there it was. Not guilt, not defensiveness, but something much worse. Irritation. Like I was a child asking stupid questions. "Yes, I was with Laura and Tessa and a whole group of 6 or 7 people. We were at Blueprint and then went to Ryan's place because his roommate is a DJ. I'm a grown man, Marina. I don't need to check in with you every 5 minutes. I texted you 3 times in 3 hours. That's not every 5 minutes. You're controlling, always watching, always needing reassurance, clingy, suffocating." Clingy. The word landed like a slap I wasn't allowed to react to. The word people use to turn concern into weakness, to turn reasonable fear into control. "I'm clingy," I repeated slowly, "because I want to know where my husband is, and if he's safe when he's not home and hasn't replied for 3 hours in the middle of the night." "See?" Jason waved his hand in front of me, like my entire existence was Exhibit A in the imaginary trial he was holding. This is the problem. You always check. You always have to know where I am. You always make me feel like even breathing requires your permission." Something in my chest split, not broke. Breaking would have been cleaner. This was a crack, splitting slowly, quietly, a sign that the structure inside had already failed, even if the outside still stood. Jason, we're married. We live together. I'm scared because I love you, I said, my voice breaking on the last word. He looked at me like I had just confessed to a crime. Love shouldn't be like this, he said. Love shouldn't feel like a chain. The apartment went dead silent. Even the fridge stopped humming. His voice rose, sharp like a blade. Give me space, Marina. I feel suffocated in this. Marriage. His voice echoed through the apartment. Okay, I heard myself say. He blinked. What? Okay, you want space? I'll give you space. Something flickered on his face. Relief, maybe. He thought he'd won the argument. A small part of him seemed to realize he'd gone too far, because his voice softened a little. Marina, I didn't mean... I'm just tired. Can we talk in the morning? Sure, get some sleep. He searched my face for something. I didn't give it to him. After a few seconds, Jason turned back into the bedroom. Our bedroom. I stood in the living room, listening to the familiar sounds of him getting ready for bed. The water running, the toothbrush tapping lightly against the cup, the mattress creaking as he climbed into bed. Act 2. I waited another 30 minutes until I heard his steady breathing shift into deep sleep. Then I started moving. My laptop was in the bag by the door. I'd been working from home today. I opened it carefully, the glow of the screen in the dark making everything feel covert. My hands didn't shake as I logged into our joint bank account. We had a shared account, but we each kept our own personal accounts from before we got married. Mine was almost unused, just a safety net with about $8,000. I transferred exactly half of our joint savings into my personal account. I didn't take everything. I wasn't trying to screw him over, just taking my own half. Fair. Clean. Then I opened a new browser window and started looking for apartments. Not in Portland, where we had built a life that turned out to be nothing more than a pretty shell covering the distance between us. I wanted to go somewhere else, somewhere far enough that space would actually mean something. I found it in Las Vegas, Nevada, a studio apartment available for immediate move-in. They allowed online payment for the deposit and first month's rent. Over 1,300 kilometers from Portland. It seemed fitting for the amount of space Jason said he needed. I filled out the application, paid the fees, uploaded my pay stubs and credit report. My hands still didn't shake. I felt like I was standing outside my own body, watching myself. Some quiet, muted version of Marina dismantling her marriage piece by piece, while still appearing perfectly calm. The automated approval email arrived at 4:17 a.m. Machines don't get tired. I opened my work email. I'm a UX designer for a company that went fully remote after the pandemic and has no plans to return to an office. I drafted an email to my manager, Jeff, explaining that I would soon be moving to another state for personal reasons and needed to update my address for HR records. Remote is remote. Whether I'm in Portland or Las Vegas or anywhere else, the work stays the same. I didn't send it yet. I needed to pack first. I moved like a ghost through the apartment. I'd lived here for 3 years, yet it was surprising to notice how little truly belonged to me. The furniture, his or ours. The kitchenware, mostly wedding gifts or things he picked. The art, plants, decor pieces that made the place look like the curated life of a stable couple. All his. What belonged to me fit into 3 suitcases and 2 cardboard boxes. Clothes, my laptop and work devices. The bracelet my mother gave me that I kept in a drawer because Jason said it looked tacky. My sci-fi books and character sketches he told me to put in the closet because they didn't fit the aesthetic. The paint tubes and drawing board I'd abandoned long ago because every time I picked them up, Jason would make some half-joking, half-serious comment like, "You're 30, Marina. You don't have time to play artsy anymore." I gathered everything of mine in the dark, making several trips to my car. My car. The old Subaru I bought before we got married, long since paid off. Not the new Audi on payments, Jason's pride. The same car he used to complain about every month, telling me I didn't understand financial pressure. I checked the time. 6 a.m. I sat at the dining table and began writing a letter. I considered writing something long, explaining every layer of emotion, every hurt, every time he said, "You suffocate me." But what would be the point? He said he needed space. I was giving him exactly that. In the end, I kept it short. "Jason, you said you need space, and you're right. I've been too present, too worried, too involved in your life. I will fix that. I have taken half of our joint savings. You can check the account. Rent is paid through the month. The bills are all automatic. I forwarded my mail to a P.O. box. You don't need to find me. I'm giving you exactly what you asked for, Marina." I left the letter on the kitchen counter and set his favorite mug on top of it. The mug that Laura gave him. Cute rather than classy. Completely out of place in my kitchen, yet something he cherished. I stood in the doorway of the bedroom one last time. Jason lay on his side, his back turned to me, to the place I was supposed to be. Morning light slipped through the curtains, touching his hair in a way that used to make my chest ache with love. Now it didn't. I felt nothing, something frightening and freeing at the same time. "Goodbye, Jason," I whispered. Not to him, but to this room, this life, and the version of myself who believed loving someone meant holding tight even as they pulled away. I walked out, locked the door, dropped the key through the mail slot, and got in my car. Las Vegas was more than a 22-hour drive away. I stopped twice for gas, and once at a rest area in New Mexico, where I sat in my car staring at my phone. No calls, no messages. It was 2 p.m. by then. He was definitely awake. Definitely had read the letter. And still nothing. I blocked his number, not out of anger, but out of necessity, like removing a tumor before it spreads. I blocked him on social media, email, every app that had any shared connection, removed location sharing, unsynced our calendars, pulled myself out of every tiny stitch of a two-person life. By the time I reached Las Vegas near midnight, Jason had already become a shadow in my memory, a cautionary tale I'd tell myself on lonely nights that pain is never better than emptiness. The new apartment was small, bare, and smelled like fresh paint. I unpacked, set my laptop on the counter, then lay down on the floor, staring at the ceiling of my new life, listening to the unfamiliar sounds of an unfamiliar city, feeling all the space Jason had once demanded settling around me. I didn't cry, didn't get angry, felt nothing except a strange, cold clarity. This was freedom. This was what happens when you believe someone's words. This was the first day of the rest of my life. And I entered it with my eyes wide open, carrying only what truly belonged to me. Act 3. Outside, Las Vegas hummed with the heat and the light of strangers living their own separate lives. But inside the small apartment, I was becoming a different version of myself. During my first week in Las Vegas, I lived like a monk sworn to minimalism, not out of enlightenment, but out of defiance. The room echoed with the sound of my own footsteps. Every breath, every pocket of silence carried weight. A kind of weight that made me realize a truth. A shared life generates too much noise. From opening doors, from short breaths, from arguments that never truly end. The space of another person takes up more room than you'd expect, even when they're not physically in the room. I bought a mattress on the third day, not because sleeping on the floor bothered me. In fact, there was something incredibly clear about forcing my own body to endure the hardness, like a small punishment for the softness my heart had once given too easily. But my back began protesting in ways that affected my work, and work was the only thing I had left now. Work, the neutral, beautiful land of logic, design, and problems that actually have solutions. I threw myself into it with a level of focus I hadn't managed in months, maybe years. Sitting at the $30 folding table I had just bought, I realized how long I had been distracted, far longer than I'd ever admitted to myself. How many times had I been in the middle of a complex design task when Jason sent some trivial message, and I lost my train of thought, just trying to reply in a way that didn't sound cold? How many video meetings had I half listened to while wondering where he was, with whom, whether the distance I felt was real or something I had invented. Now there was no one to wonder about, no one to text, no distractions except the ones I created myself. As long as the work gets done, my boss said during a video meeting. Whether you're coding in Las Vegas or Alaska doesn't matter. He didn't ask why. He didn't even notice that the background behind me had changed, from the tidy bookshelf Jason curated to a blank, empty white wall. That's the thing about remote work. You can disappear from your own life, and as long as you show up on Slack at the right time, no one notices. I liked that. Coworkers were just squares on a screen, voices without bodies, personalities without complications. They didn't know I had been married, didn't know I had left, didn't know anything except that Marina was reliable, Marina delivered on time, Marina took on the difficult projects other people avoided. I became that person, the one who handled every messy redesign, the one responsible for the outdated flows that made the team want to quit. I worked hours that the old version of me would have been horrified by. The version who tried to preserve work-life balance, logging off on time to go home and cook dinner for Jason, the man who believed love was constant inventory, constant adjustment, constant sacrifice. Ridiculous. By the second week, I had a new rhythm. Wake up at 6 a.m. Drink black coffee, shower, then dive into work at 7. Eat lunch in front of the screen, work until 7 p.m., sometimes later. Eat something I could hold in one hand so the other could stay on the mouse. Work more, sleep, repeat. On weekends, I ran. I had never run before. Jason used to joke that I only had 2 speeds, sitting and sleeping. But October in Las Vegas was beautiful in a way Portland never was. Hot, dry, and sharp like a clean blade. I started with 1 mile, then 2, then 5. By the 3rd week, I was running 5 miles every Saturday morning, pushing my body until my mind went completely quiet. Physical pain was so clean. I didn't think about Jason, that's what I told myself. I didn't check his social media, couldn't. I had blocked everything. I didn't wonder whether he'd tried to call, because I had blocked his number. I didn't imagine what he thought when he woke up to the letter. When he realized I wasn't coming back. When he had to explain to friends, family, and Laura that his wife had vanished. But of course I thought about it. Late at night, when coding no longer distracted me, the apartment too quiet and the strange shadows on the ceiling looked like accusations. I thought about it and tore the thought apart like ripping up a flawed sketch. In the 4th week, I bought furniture, not much. A self-assembly sofa. The instructions faded as I pushed wooden dowels into pre-drilled holes and wondered if this was what building a new life meant. A coffee table, a lamp, a set of dishes because eating takeout straight from the container was starting to feel like a depression metric. The apartment became functional, but not comfortable. Comfort felt like weakness, a softness that could lead me back to the place where I lost myself. I needed function, a place to work, a place to eat, a place to sleep. Everything else? Later. My phone stayed mostly silent. Work messages, automated notifications. Occasionally, my mother texted a few check-ins, sent photos of her plants. I replied shortly, "I'm fine, busy, we'll call later." She didn't know I had left my marriage. Jason and I only visited twice in 3 years. He always had a reason. Too far, too hot, too boring. My father called once. "Haven't heard from you in a while," he said, with the voice of a man trying to sound casual to hide worry. "Yeah, I'm okay, Dad, just busy." "How's Jason?" The question hit like a punch I knew was coming but still wasn't ready for. "He's fine." "I'm busy, Dad. I'll call back later." I didn't call back. In the 5th week, I noticed the absence of arguments. It sounded silly, but that night when I was making pasta with jarred sauce, I realized I was adding chili sauce. Jason hated spicy food, said it ruined the flavor. So I hadn't touched spice in years. Now I put spice on everything, a tiny rebellion, but one that felt like reclaiming territory. I started listing in my head the things I had given up. Friday night cartoons, Jason said childish. Music while working, he said distracting. Pizza with chili flakes. He said, disgusting. The list grew until I realized I had sanded myself down to fit the shape of him. In the 6th week, something shifted. During a video meeting about a new project, a coworker joked, "Marina's background looks like she's ready to flee at any moment." Everyone laughed. I did too. But the comment clung to me. After the meeting, I looked around the apartment. She was right. It looked like a transit station, not a home. No photos, no personal marks, nothing to prove an actual human lived there. I had tried so hard not to be the old Marina, the one who was too much, that I had become no one at all. That weekend, I went to a local art market. I didn't know what I was looking for, only that the white walls were starting to swallow me. I found a desert painting, orange, purple, deep green, swirling together like a southwestern sunset. Something Jason would never pick. It was tacky, bold, importantly, not classy. I bought it and hung it in the living room. Then I went to a bookstore and bought back all the books I once gave away. Sketchbooks, philosophy texts, even a massive book about the universe just because. I liked it. For the first time since arriving in Las Vegas, the apartment looked lived in, like I lived there. In the 7th week, I joined a painting class. Not to become an artist. I just realized running was lonely, and I hadn't spoken to another human in person in over a month. The class was serious. No artsy lattes, no soft background music, just easels, paints, and people who looked like they were confronting themselves through every brushstroke. I loved it immediately. I signed up for a 1-month course with Elena, the instructor whose teaching style made discipline feel like freedom. She didn't ask about my personal life, only what I wanted to paint. "I want to be stronger," I said. She looked at me like she'd heard that line many times and knew it meant more than strokes on paper. "Then let's begin." The sessions were intense. Elena made me paint difficult subjects over and over, forcing me to face emotions I didn't think I could handle. Every time I wanted to quit, she said one line, "Color doesn't care about your feelings. Either you control it or it ruins your painting." There was something honest about that. Clarifying. In the 8th week, I started sleeping better. The apartment no longer felt foreign. The neighbors' noises, the couple upstairs arguing in Spanish, the student next door playing guitar badly but enthusiastically, became familiar. Las Vegas started to feel like a choice, not a punishment. I went out more, worked in coffee shops just to feel less like a hermit. Then one Friday night, I went to a bar, sat alone at the counter, watching a movie on my phone, and drinking a beer that tasted like permission. A man tried to talk to me, handsome, polite. He asked where I lived, why I came to Las Vegas. I simply said, work. I didn't mention Jason. I didn't mention a marriage suffocated by the word clingy. He touched my hand once, gently, curious, and I felt nothing. Not the nothing of heartbreak, just the unready kind, the kind where someone else still lives inside you, and there's no room yet. When he suggested exchanging numbers, I politely declined. After he left, I sat there thinking about how easy it would have been to say yes. Jason would probably have lost his mind if he knew, even though he was the one who drove me away. In the 9th week, I realized I had gone 3 days without thinking of Jason. Not that I had no wounds. He still lived somewhere in the background of my mind, like a scar I couldn't remember getting, but my body still knew. But he was no longer the center of my story. I was. By the 10th week, I had fully stepped into my new life. Marina, UX designer, Las Vegas resident, weekly runner, chronic overworker, slowly rebuilding herself from the foundation up. I didn't miss Jason. What surprised me most was that it wasn't denial. I only missed the ideal version I once believed we could have. I missed the routine, the safety of having someone. But Jason, the man who yelled at me for caring, who turned love into a flaw, I didn't miss him. 2 months in Las Vegas, and I wasn't running away from anything anymore. I had started running toward myself. 6 months in Las Vegas passed like a fever breaking, the early stage aching and chaotic, then slowly cooling into something tolerable, finally settling into a new normal. Something almost like recovery. I stopped counting weeks and started counting what I had gained. Promoted to lead UX designer, running consistently every week without quitting, finishing over 30 large paintings, reading 43 books, learning to cook more than 5 decent dishes, and making friends. Real friends. That last part surprised me the most. It all started with Eric, my climbing coach, who kept texting to invite me to weekend group climbs, even after our private sessions ended. I ignored him for a month, then eventually said yes, mostly because ignoring a persistent, kind person was more exhausting than showing up. The group was just 5 or 6 people. Matt, a firefighter with dark humor. Camille, a divorce lawyer who lifted weights like she was unloading all her anger onto the world. Olivia, a high school teacher who talked about her students with affectionate warmth like they were her own kids. And Hannah, a night shift nurse who always looked like she was about to pass out but still reached the top of every climb first. No one asked about my past. No one asked about my marriage. No one pried into why I came to Las Vegas. They just accepted me. Accepted that I showed up, tried earnestly, and was part of this small group. We talked about shallow things, work complaints, movie recommendations, arguments about which place had the best food in Las Vegas. But underneath that shallowness was something real, a kind of connection that didn't need explanation. A few months later, the climbing sessions turned into simple dinners. Tacos, pizza, the kind of hangouts that didn't demand vulnerability, just presence. A reminder that isolation was not a virtue. One night, about 8 months after I moved to Las Vegas, the whole group gathered at Matt's apartment to watch a boxing match. I didn't care about boxing, but there, surrounded by spicy food and quiet chatter, I felt like I belonged somewhere other than my apartment, my art class, or the coffee shops where I worked alone. During the break between rounds, Hannah turned to me with the kind of directness only night shift nurses have. They're used to asking blunt questions. So what's your story, Marina? You never talk about your past? Witness protection, mafia escape, or secret identity? Everyone laughed, but I saw all their eyes on me. Polite, but curious. I took a sip of wine, stretched out the silence for a few seconds, then surprised even myself when I said, separation, or leaving is more accurate. Legally still married, but only because I haven't bothered with paperwork. How long? Matt asked. I left 8 months ago. Left in one night. Never went back. Damn, Olivia said. Cold, but impressive. Camille, the divorce lawyer, sat up straight, like her professional instinct had just activated. Let me guess. He cheated, right? You found out, then disappeared to teach him a lesson? I don't know. Maybe he did. I don't care anymore. But that's not why I left. I paused, searching for a way to say it without sounding like complaining. He yelled in my face that I was clingy, just because I asked where he was at 2:30 in the morning with a female coworker. He suddenly mentioned more and more. He said I was suffocating him, said I needed to give him space. And you gave him space, Hannah murmured. Yeah, about 1,400 kilometers. The room fell quiet for a few seconds, just fists hitting gloves on the TV and the roar of the crowd. Did he try to find you? Camille asked. I'm not sure. I blocked his number at 2 p.m. the next day, after he'd had time to contact me but didn't. Matt let out a low whistle. That's real strength. Or cowardice, I said. Tom shook his head. Cowardice is staying and letting someone make you feel like you're the problem. You set a boundary. A nuclear one, yes, but still a boundary. You planning to get the divorce done? Camille asked. I'll give you the friend discount. I had never seriously considered it. I'd been living in a strange limbo. Gone, but not legally separated. Vanished, but still tethered by paperwork. Maybe, I said. I don't know. It feels like a hassle. And honestly, he feels so foreign now that paperwork doesn't even matter. It does. Hannah said gently. If you want to really start over, start over with someone else. I didn't respond. The conversation drifted back to the match, to ordinary things. But something had shifted. I had said it out loud. I had told the story. And instead of pity or judgment, they just nodded, just listened. To be heard without someone trying to fix you, that's a rare gift. That night, lying in bed in the apartment that finally carried my own breath, I thought about what Hannah said, that if I really wanted to turn the page, I had to end the old one. The truth was that I had moved on in almost every way. I no longer thought about Jason every day. I no longer wondered where he was, with whom, or whether he regretted anything. He was just a character in an old story now, not a co-author of my present. But legally, officially, I had still left that door cracked open, like a room in a house that's locked, but the key still hangs on the hook. The next few months in Las Vegas were a refinement stage. I wasn't just building a new life, I was improving it. Work was thriving. I got promoted, money was abundant, more than Jason and I ever combined. I started investing, building actual financial stability instead of just getting by. I bought a new car, and I started real climbing, from indoor walls to actual rock faces outside. The feeling of gripping a tiny hold on stone, where every movement had to be precise, where even a split second of distraction meant falling straight down, quieted my mind in a way running never had. The climbing community was lovable in their own way. If you're obsessed with climbing like they are, that alone is enough to be accepted. I gradually found climbing buddies, then close friends, then people who saw me as their Marina, the calm, careful one on the wall, a little dry in humor. Not Marina who got left by her husband, not Marina who ran from a cracked life. Just Marina. Around 11 months after moving, I went on my first date since leaving Portland. I met him at the climbing gym. His name was Noah. He was struggling with a difficult route, and I showed him how to shift his weight into his knee. He thanked me, smiled, and asked if I wanted to grab a coffee. Old Marina would have panicked. Should I go? Is it appropriate? What if it goes bad? What if it goes well? New Marina said, sure. We talked for hours about light things, design work, climbing, a fat cat he owned named Mochi. Then he asked, so how is someone this interesting single? There's got to be a story. I liked the honesty. I've been separated for almost 2 years, still married on paper because I haven't done the paperwork. Why not? Laziness? Avoidance? He laughed. Fair. Divorce paperwork sucks. I just left. One day I walked out and never went back. I watched his face, waiting for judgment, or red flags, or that subtle expression people get when they realize you might be damaged goods. Instead, he nodded thoughtfully. That must have been hard. Do you still love him? The question surprised me, not because it was too personal. We were past that, but because I actually had to think about the answer. No, I finally said. I don't think so. I loved the idea of us, loved trying to make the marriage work. But who he really was, I'm not sure I ever knew. Noah nodded, without judgment. That's an honest answer. We went out a few more times. He was good, kind, interesting, but every time things edged closer to intimacy, I felt a wall rise. Some distance inside me I couldn't cross yet. Eventually, I said it plainly over dinner at the Italian place he picked. I like you, really like you, but I'm not ready. I don't want to drag this out pretending I am. He gave a sad but understanding smile. I think you're still carrying that marriage with you, even if you don't love him anymore. You should close it out, legally and emotionally. He was right. I knew he was right. But closing it meant facing it. Facing it meant reopening doors I'd kept locked for almost a year. A week after Noah and I stopped seeing each other, I called Camille. Whenever you're free, I said, let's talk about that friend discount you mentioned last time. Finally, she laughed. Come by my office this week. Let's get it done. Camille's office was on a high floor of a steel and glass building in downtown Las Vegas. The kind of space that made you feel like the service fees were probably higher than my rent. For me, she charged exactly what she called the rock-climbing friend rate. Just enough so she wouldn't lose money. We sat in a small conference room, and she started explaining the process. I could file for divorce myself without needing Jason to be present. The hardest part, Camille said, is that you haven't contacted him in almost a year. We have to send the divorce papers to the correct address. To do that, we need to know where he is. I think he's still at the old apartment, I said, though I wasn't sure. I wasn't sure about anything in Jason's life anymore. He was practically a stranger now. The old lease had both our names on it, paid through the month I left, and I assumed he either renewed or moved somewhere else. I'll find out, I said. How? I thought you blocked everything? I blocked him, but I didn't delete my social media. I just stopped using it. I can make a new account, dig through his friends list, see if anyone tagged him recently. Camille gave me a look that was half respect, half concern that I had really erased myself too thoroughly. Fine. As long as you find his current address, I'll have someone serve the papers. After that, we just wait for a response. If he contests it, things get messy. If not, it'll be done in a few months. That night, I did the thing I'd avoided for a year. I logged into Facebook. My old account was exactly as I'd left it. The last post from a year ago, a share about remote work trends. Fewer than 50 friends. Jason was still there, still listed as married to Marina. His profile photo still the picture of us from our honeymoon in Costa Rica. I clicked his page with hands that weren't entirely steady. Most of his page was locked, but I could still see his friends list and a few public posts. The most recent one was from 2 months ago, a photo of him with his co-worker Laura at a team-building event. Laura was in the picture too, her arm around his waist in a way that looked natural, familiar. I stared at the photo for a long time, waiting for a feeling to hit. Anger, jealousy, hurt, something. But nothing came. Only a sense of distance, like looking at vacation photos of someone I didn't know. I switched to browsing his friends, his sister Harper, his college best friend, and his mother, who had always been kind to me, even when Jason wasn't. I opened Harper's page on instinct. Her profile was public, thank God. Her newest post was from yesterday, a photo of her son's birthday, and in the background, unmistakably, Jason. The location tag, Portland, the exact area where I used to live. So he was still there, still in that city, still in that old life, while I had burned mine down and rebuilt it from the ground up somewhere else. I took a screenshot, saved the location and date, and sent it to Camille. Found him, still in Portland, or at least nearby. Camille replied a few minutes later. Perfect. I'll prepare the documents. Are you sure? I paused for a moment. Thought about the past year, every hour I rebuilt myself from nothing, every piece of me I had to relearn how to love, every day I lived without needing an echo from anyone else. I typed back, yeah, it's time. Act 6. The paperwork was filed the next week. Camille hired a process server in Portland. And somewhere in the city I once called home, a stranger knocked on Jason's apartment door and handed him the stack of documents that would legally end what had already ended emotionally the night he screamed in my face that I was too clingy. I didn't know how he reacted, didn't know whether he accepted it or fought it, didn't know whether he had ever tried to find me or had moved on completely the way I had. And the strange thing was, I no longer cared. He wanted space. I had given it to him. Now I was just finishing the administrative part. The server reported back within 48 hours. Jason opened the door, received the papers, signed the acknowledgement. Camille emailed, served. Now we wait for a response. I read the message 3 times, waiting for a wave of emotion to hit. This was the first contact, indirect as it was, in 12 months. Somewhere in Portland, he was holding papers with my name, my signature, my decision to sever whatever remained between us. I felt nothing. Or Maybe something very light, like setting down a heavy bag I'd carried so long, I forgot it was there. Work once again became a refuge. The company was undergoing a massive infrastructure overhaul, the kind of project that swallowed weekends and seeped into dreams. I was leading a team of 12 spread across 4 time zones. I was good at this, really good. The real irony hit me about 3 weeks after Jason was served with the divorce papers. I was climbing near a beautiful ledge when my phone buzzed inside my chalk bag. I glanced at it out of habit. A notification from a Facebook account I didn't recognize. A message request. I almost ignored it. Almost. But something made me tap it. The profile picture was a fluffy orange cat. Obviously a burner account, possibly spam. But the preview text read, Jason's mother. I need to speak with you. My heart dropped into my stomach. After a year of silence, after distance, I thought was sealed shut, Jason's world reached for me again. I didn't open the message, not while holding on to a rock wall, but it stayed lodged in my mind throughout the rest of the climb, like a pebble stuck in a shoe. Small, but enough to hurt. When we got back to the parking lot, I finally opened it. Marina, this is his mother. I made this account because I know you blocked Jason, and probably blocked me too. I don't know if you'll ever see this, but I have to try. Jason received the divorce papers. He is not okay. He's been spiraling for weeks. I don't know what happened between the two of you. He won't tell me. But since you left, he's been in a very bad place. Whatever you think he did, whatever happened, he has paid for it. I'm not asking you to come back to him. I'm not asking you to talk to him. I'm only asking, please don't divorce him right now. He's not signing. His lawyer says he wants to contest it. Please, Marina, call me or email me or anything. We need to figure something out. We are still family. I sat in the car, reading the message over and over. Eric tapped the window, concerned. You okay? He stood there waiting, not prying. I handed him my phone. He read it, let out a low whistle. That's heavy. What are you going to do? I shook my head. I don't know. You don't owe them anything, he said. Not after everything he did. I stayed quiet. Was that true? Maybe, I said softly. But not because of him, because of his mother. She was always kind. That night, I sat in my apartment, holding a glass of wine I couldn't drink, staring at Margaret's phone number on the screen. Silence wrapped around me, the same space Jason once demanded, yet it had become the foundation of my new life. I called. She picked up on the second ring. Marina? Yes, it's me. There was a sound on the other end, maybe a laugh or a gasp or both. Oh my God, I didn't think you would actually call. Are you okay? Where are you? I'm fine. Silence. Then I heard her inhale deeply, steadying herself. Marina, what happened? He only said you left. He said he tried to look for you this whole time. Did he? It wasn't a question. My voice was flat, neutral, revealing nothing. My parents kept my situation private. I told them the basics about 6 months after I left, that my husband and I separated, that I needed time alone, that I'd reach out when I was ready. My father only asked one question. Did he hurt you? And when I said yes, he said, Then take all the time you need, sweetheart. What happened? Margaret repeated slowly. Was that he screamed in my face that I was clingy for wanting to know where my husband was at 2:30 in the morning with another woman. Silence on the other end, then a soft, broken sound. I don't know what to say. I didn't know it was that bad. It was that bad, and I was certain Jason had shown her a different version, one where I was the villain who abandoned him without warning. Thursday afternoon, while I was mixing paint on my palette, my phone buzzed with an email from Camille titled, Notice of Temporary Hearing. I froze. There it was, the real split, the real beginning. I read the email twice, then a third time to make sure I wasn't misunderstanding anything. For the first time in weeks, I felt something loosen inside my chest. But the relief lasted only 10 minutes. Right after that, another email I hadn't noticed before. Not from Jason, from his company's HR department. Dear Mrs. Miller, we are contacting you regarding an internal investigation involving your husband, Mr. Jason Miller. Please respond at your earliest convenience. I blinked so hard it felt like my retinas might detach. Internal investigation? For what? The lines that followed spelled it out clearly. Unauthorized expenditures, misuse of corporate accounts. My heart dropped. He'd been using company money again. Not for office supplies. For wine and hotel rooms. So the secrets he kept from me weren't just marital betrayals. They were career-ending mistakes. Or worse. He was falling apart not because I left, but because his affair had blown up. Then my phone buzzed again. This time, a long message from Jason. Margaret must not have kept her promise. Please, I need to see you. Ever since you left, everything is falling apart. I know I messed up, but I can fix it. I love you. Please don't destroy this family. I read slowly, letting each word drop exactly where it belonged. And then I asked myself only one question. If you loved this family, why did you gamble it away on someone else? I typed my reply with steady fingers. There is nothing left between us to save. Our lawyers will communicate. Do not contact me directly again. I was no longer running, no longer hiding in fear, no longer shrinking beneath the wounds. I was rebuilding my own life. And Jason, finally, was facing the consequences he created himself. The phone buzzed again on Monday morning. A strange number. I recognized the voice the moment the man spoke. Smooth, polite, but stretched tight, like a violin string about to snap. Jason's lawyer. Mrs. Miller, I'm calling to inform you. Jason is ready to sign. I closed my eyes for a short breath. Finally. But he wasn't finished. However, the lawyer swallowed. He has one small condition. Marina, Jason wants to meet you, just for an hour. He says it's the only condition under which he'll sign. I set my coffee cup on the table. It barely made a sound, but my hand tightened around the handle until my knuckles turned white. I spoke very softly, very clearly. No? The lawyer paused for a second, as if he thought I hadn't heard him correctly. I mean, he tried again. You don't want to consider. I already said it. I stood upright, looking out the window, where the Las Vegas sunlight spilled across the floor like a new opening. No, I won't meet him. 1 hour won't change a year, and I don't owe him any more conversations. His voice dropped. I understand, but Jason... He says he's in a lot of pain. He needs... I understand, I said, slower this time, firmer. But if he's in pain, that's something he needs to address with his therapist, not with me. He says he won't stop contesting the divorce unless you agree to meet. And there it was, the threat hidden under the plea, the manipulation wrapped in remorse. Do what I want, or I'll make this as painful as possible. A cold, sharp clarity washed over me. Then I guess we'll see each other in court, I said. Tell him he can drag this out as long as he likes. I have time. I have patience. I have a good lawyer and a life that does not revolve around this divorce. If he wants to waste money on legal fees and months on a fight he can't win, that's his choice. I heard him exhale, a long, defeated breath like someone who had just lost their last piece. I ended the call with a polite but icy, "Thank you," then set my phone down. My hands trembled, not from fear or uncertainty, but from anger. His audacity. Using the divorce as a hostage to force contact, weaponizing his pain to demand my presence, turning his emotional need into my obligation when he was the one who betrayed me. I opened my laptop, pulled up the email his company had sent me, screenshotted every page, every line, and sent all of it to Jason with a single note. This is what you chose. Not me. 3 days later, Camille called. She never wasted words. Marina, Jason signed. I froze mid-fold over a small blue shirt. Really? Really, no conditions, No request to meet. No negotiations. The divorce will be processed officially as soon as possible. The paperwork arrived a week later. Jason's signature was there, neat and careful, right beside mine, which had been waiting for weeks. Camille had already filed everything with the court. And just like that, I was officially single, unmarried, free. No tears. No explosive relief. No triumphant shout. Because everything that needed to end had ended long ago. That night, I spread a sheet of paper across the floor. The familiar smell of acrylic paint drifted up like I was opening the door to another room inside myself, a room made of quiet. I didn't set a goal, didn't choose a theme. I simply let my hands follow my breath. Strokes of blue, purple, and yellow blended into something that looked like a blurred landscape, like the Las Vegas sky at 5 p.m., when the sun hasn't fully set, but darkness has already penciled a thin line along the horizon. Painting cleared my mind in a strange, almost surgical way, as if every brushstroke loosened another invisible thread, still clinging to my heart. My second year in Las Vegas flowed like warm water, no longer swirling chaotically, just moving steadily beneath the surface. I worked, I climbed, I painted, I laughed more often. I learned to stay silent with things that didn't deserve my voice, and to speak up about the things I once swallowed. Near the end of that second year, I received the news. I was being promoted to Director of Engineering. During the performance review, my manager looked at me for a long time before signing the papers. He said, "Marina, 2 years ago, you seemed like someone shrinking herself so she wouldn't break. And now, you're very clear, very decisive." I smiled, not to be polite, but because it was true. I was not the same woman anymore. The divorce was only paperwork. The real ending had happened the night Jason walked away from everything that belonged to us, including me. I stepped out of the company building, looked at Las Vegas stretching out before me, and realized I wasn't just surviving anymore. I was growing. I was expanding my life the way an old door opens onto a sunlit field you never dared to step into. When I bought my first home in Las Vegas, a small, bright place with climbing vines outside the porch and a living room full of sunlight, the feeling of stepping through the doorway for the first time was like inhaling air that belonged entirely to me. I hand-picked every piece of furniture: a deep blue armchair, a matte-finished wooden bookshelf, a desert-patterned rug, and paintings I'd made myself hung on the walls. This space, every corner, was the most honest reflection of who I was. Looking back on my journey, from a woman running into the night with a few suitcases and a heart full of cracks to a woman who knows how to choose herself first, I understood that the best thing I ever did was leaving that marriage, not to start over with someone else, but to return to myself, to the girl I had abandoned while trying to become the good enough, gentle enough, enduring enough wife. That night, before turning off the lights, I looked around my home, the colors, the light, the breath of it, and said softly, like an affirmation released into the universe, leaving him wasn't a loss. It was the only way to find myself again, and I deserve this version of